Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IA Cast. All right, I'm here this week with Taylor Arndt. Hi, Taylor. It's good to have you back with us.
Yeah, Michael, I'm very glad to be back.
Yeah, so we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, so we're starting. We had to do a take two this time, but yeah, it's really cool to have you back on, and we're going to talk about Microsoft Loop today, and it's a topic that you're pretty interested in, right?
Yes, I am. And I'm very interested in it because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really cool program, and it's really cool to have folks on that have interest in topics that to talk about, because if you're not interested in a topic, it's pointless having people on to talk about it. So we're glad to have you back and that you're interested in Loop. So basically, we were looking at other tools and solutions that we could use for running our business, and we've a lot of people know about Notion and other tools that a lot of people call the second brain. And so Microsoft Loop was invented to kind of be that alternative to Notion. And so I said, well, this was back in 2022. I'm like, let's try it out. And they were still getting it off the ground. And it really took through 2023 to get it really polished and looking good. And I said, well, let's try it. And now there's an iOS and Android app. There's a web application and a desktop web wrapper on Windows. And Loop is basically that Notion alternative that we were looking for. But Taylor, why didn't you use Notion? What was kind of the drawbacks to Notion?
Notion is a great program. The problem is that it's not great if you use a screen reader. You see, there's a lot of unlabeled buttons and other inaccessibilities that made Notion pretty much impossible to use as somebody who is blind and use a screen reader. It's good if you have low vision. I don't want to say it's good, but it's usable. But it's practically unusable if you don't have any sight and you're relying on a screen reader to use the web.
Yeah, and and it's a great program, but it also costs to get all the benefits from.
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
that's true.
and so does Notion. I mean, so does Loop. But we'll get into why it's so great here in a minute. But I liked Notion because of all of the ability to change things and move things around and use blocks and things like that. And I said, well, it would be great to have an accessible alternative. Notion just has not worked on accessibility, and if they do that, that would be great. You do have to pay per workspace.
Hmm.
Workspaces are basically like silos where you could put information, and you have to have a paid version of Office to get that, and you can't get it on the home or family plan, I don't think. But
Yes, you can, Michael.
workspaces,
Yes.
I saw that
I was
it
able
only.
to create workspaces on my iCloud account.
Hmm, interesting.
So
I'll have to
I
play
don't
with
know.
that.
I'm gonna have to investigate that a little bit more.
The business basic, you cannot do that. I know that for sure. But it's worth checking out if we can do that on the family plan, because that would be pretty neat if you could just, create workspaces without having the business versions of
But I still
Office.
want to keep. I want to
Yeah.
keep our business,
Yeah.
obvious.
We do have the business plans, and that does allow us to create unlimited workspaces and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the home and family does have some restrictions on like the different templates and things that are available.
Right. You do get a lot more, and you get the ability to integrate it into your Microsoft Office environment if you have the business standard. So Loop lets you create basically ideas, is what they call them. They're pages and they're ideas. With workspaces, you can put those pages and ideas in one central spot and then be able to categorize those, have sub pages and things like that. And you could just double tap and hold on iOS and drag and drop those pages or reorder them. Or you could create a sub page whenever you create a new page. The reason why this is nice is because unlike OneNote or others where you have notebooks and things like this, you can reference content in other pages. You can have a cover, you can write blog posts, and that's one thing I want to mess with as well is if like Notion and Obsidian, I can create blog posts and then have it just post to WordPress from the application. But with Loop, it's just so accessible. And it even works it's fully accessible in the iOS or Android app as well. So they've taken a lot of effort to really make this work pretty well. Have you found any issues, Taylor, with the web or desktop version?
Not really, just a couple of the templates have some specific issues to them. Like
So,
the Kanban board, for
yes.
example.
So Loop does have templates and things like that you can add, like to-do lists, issue trackers, and Kanban boards, kind of like Trello. Why don't you talk about some of the issues you've had with the boards?
So the boards, the issue I have is that I can't see the different cards in the sections. And so if I try to do the command, the alt control down arrow, something like that, it just doesn't work, right? It doesn't show me the details for the cards and it doesn't read me the title.
Gotcha. So it really does. I mean, I was able to, with voiceover and things like that, to be able to read those pieces of information, but it just depends on what you're using. And so, but the neat thing is, a lot of these boards, you have to drag and drop items, and you can actually use menus to move to the column to the right, move to the column to the left, move above, move below, instead of having to rely on drag and drop, which is really fantastic for screen reader users.
It really is. If they could fix those couple issues that I just mentioned, then it will be fully accessible.
Yeah, and you could color code things. It does support light and dark mode, which is really nice. The desktop app lets you select it, whereas the mobile app relies on the system. So I wish they would kind of fix that, but it's a fantastic application. So why do I like a program like Loop? I like it because I can collect data. Like one of the biggest things is finding an accessible wiki, right? Like to create documentation, put a lot of, things like how-to guides or specific things for stuff you're working on with your company. Like I was saying, Notion, you have to pay per workspace, but with Loop, if you have the business standard account, which is $15 a month, you get unlimited workspaces from what I can tell. And then you could link those workspaces to Microsoft, like I'm sure you could put like links to Microsoft lists or other things in there. I don't know if all of that's included yet or not, but it just integrates throughout the Microsoft Office suite. It works with Outlook. We have not tested to see what it's like to copy and paste a Loop component into a email or into a Teams chat, but I don't see why. I think it kind of, with them using Electron and web view based applications, it kind of all is, it all is very similar code base or code sets. So I would imagine, if they're writing it in one way, then they could just take your loop components and copy it between applications. That's what I'm guessing. Would you use loop in this kind of a way, Taylor? Would you use loop to copy information between applications, or would you use it as an idea collection and things like that?
No, I'd use it for both. I just thought of something. I wonder if I could make each issue for our common issues for accessibility stuff into a loop component, and then I don't know if could I select the issue that I want and insert it into something? Could that work? I don't know. I'm gonna have to play around with that after I get done with the IACast and get done troubleshooting something else. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to try to figure that out.
Yeah, and I'm going to be very curious about. I'm just curious if people can use workspaces in home and family, because that will be interesting and things like that.
I
So
was able to create one, and I was able to do it, so, yeah.
now, but were you also signed into both accounts or just the one?
Just the one I opened up an incognito tab.
Okay, interesting, fantastic. And I wonder if can you create more than one? Do you know?
I don't know.
Because they may limit you to one workspace, but that's really
Probably.
fantastic. It does allow for people to create more, to use this stuff without having to get the premium, versions of Office or the standard. I mean, and that's pretty fantastic. So if you have Microsoft Office, that is a huge win for you as a user. So I'm really excited about that. The thing about Loop that I think is great is there are blocks. So you can add code blocks, you can add paragraphs, headings, you can add all of the things that you would expect and be able to format that however you like. I believe it even supports Markdown.
Yes.
It may not support taking, like, writing in Markdown right in a Loop idea or page, but I know that you can import Markdown into pages. But I'll have to try writing Markdown and see what happens. The really exciting thing about this is it opens up the conversation of, if Microsoft can make this accessible, it means that Notion, Obsidian, all these other apps could make their products accessible. They just have to make the choice to do that. And I think that's the important thing here, is to note that this is doable, right? These applications can be made accessible and still look great. And in fact, I think Loop is one of the better looking of the applications. It's just a very clean interface. So I'm really excited to see where Loop goes. And I thought it was just still in beta on mobile, but it's not. It's a full application that you can download from the App Store. Is there any specific use cases that you've used it for, Taylor?
Well, I've used it for Techopolis-related stuff. I've created a workspace for myself because, you guys are the first to know, but I'm going to be creating a craft business where I sell all of my, craft projects. And so I created an inventory tracker on Loop in my own art crafting workspace, which is still linked to Techopolis Works Office, but it was my own workspace that I didn't share with anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And you can have your own private workspaces without sharing, and that's really nice. They make the workspaces for collaboration, but you can have your own workspaces for whatever you want. And you can link out to other Microsoft content, Word documents, Excel, all of that stuff within Loop. Now, the neat thing is that you can use Loop as an individual product, or you can, add document links. You can add pages, like links to different pages in your document or in other pages, or, you can just write everything inside of one page. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of, they call these second brain apps, because you could just open a new page and start writing documentation or information and then link it to other areas. So, we've used Trello, we've used Asana, we've used all these other things, but all of this stuff can be done in one Loop page or multiple pages. So that's the fantastic thing. It's really up to your imagination, because, you can create boards that you could do in Asana in Loop and even have more flexibility over how those work. It makes it so you don't have to pay for as many products. And it does have integrations. Have you looked at those, Taylor?
No.
So I know it integrates with Trello. I know there's other apps that it can integrate with. And of course, if you add Power Automate, it even does more, which is great. But there's so many options available with this program. I think it's even worth the $15 that you pay for it per user, because not only are you getting Microsoft Loop, but you're also getting Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, and all of the other applications that you would get with Office. So, is there any other use cases that you could see that would make this thing that is useful for you?
I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna be using it for accessibility, like documentation for company stuff, for my own like company stuff. I don't know.
I mean, people could even use this as a journaling app. You could have a journaling workspace and just write your journals as pages.
I didn't really
It
think about that.
Mhm. So, it's a very the one thing I don't see in there is how to you if you could do spoken content, but other than that, it can do journaling really well, I would imagine.
You could probably embed like an audio file or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you could embed anything into it, and then, you could share your pages, you can, do whatever you would like to with those. But that's the nice thing about this, it is flexible, it can be used for whatever you like, and that's why people liked Notion is because it was a database, you could write down things and reference them, and that's what Loop's workspaces are, is databases. You can create pages, subpages, and then reference those pages with links, and that's really the power of this thing is it has most of Notion's capabilities, and they're just gonna make it better from here. So, I think, everybody is, "Why do I need another program?" And I think, when you're collaborating with people, when you're working with folks. Oh, and that's another thing we have to talk about. This will blow people away. When you're collaborating and working with folks, it's important to be able to store things where people can read and understand what's going on. If I write code that Taylor needs to be able to read, then she should be able to have a place where she could read what I've written, right?
Mhm.
Or anybody on the team. Now, here is where it gets insanely cool. And we found this out by accident. I was editing a page and Taylor went into the same page and was able to make edits at the same time, and it was alerting her when I was moving my focus and changing text. Do you want to explain, what the screen reader was doing when you did that?
Yeah, so like if I was on one line, it would be like Michael is editing the same paragraph as you. Or Michael has moved down. Michael's moved up. Michael's editing so and so. And it literally would read what, you're doing.
And visually it shows their little avatar and shows their cursor as they're moving and doing different things. What's incredible about this is Google Docs, folks. This is what you get with Google, and it's built in with Microsoft. So in Loop, and that's amazing. Like just being able to follow along. So if you were writing code or if you're writing podcast notes, we could collaborate on those notes or code in real time, which is really nice. I'm a huge fan of applications that do this and allow you to really organize your thoughts. You could use this as a to-do list application if you wanted to. They have other apps to do that, but I mean, you could. What's nice is you could embed a to-do list inside of your content. Like you could have a paragraph, a heading, and then a to-do list and check everything off. So maybe you're creating a new project, maybe a new app, and you have a template for a new app. You could create that template, put the information in, and then go through the to-do list step by step until it's done. And then you could say, okay, this app is complete. That is the power of this. A lot of applications, you have a document or you have a to-do list. You don't usually have both, and you have that here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really think it's a really cool idea. And one of the things that we would like to promote is we are streaming this into Discord, and I want to thank everybody that's here. And, if you have questions about this, we'd love to hear them. If you want to put them in the chat, we will talk about those. We're looking for other ways to make the IA cast more interactive. So I'm glad that we can have this on Discord. It's fantastic. But there are so many ways you can use this. You could even use this as a photo album, scrapbooking, all kinds of stuff. And it's just a fantastic way to organize your data, your information, and even your thoughts. So you could put things in there where, you may not have to remember those and you could just refer back later. Also, if you're low vision or a visual user, like it is very pleasing to look at. It's not a terrible looking app, so that's a good thing as well. Taylor, do you have any other thoughts about Loop?
No, I think it's an amazing application.
Okay.
Everybody should try it.
So Payon in the chat says, have we tested it with Outlook yet? And we've also gotten that question from others. We have not tried like putting a component in Outlook as of yet, but I rarely use Outlook. But I don't see why it wouldn't be accessible. But I do know that it works with Teams, from what I understand, and other applications. So it does make it worth having, even if you're not using Outlook. You could just, and I actually, that's another good question that I just thought of. What happens if you copy information out of there and put it in Mail, like Mac Mail? How will that handle it?
Don't know.
It might just make a link to the component. But, all these things are worth trying out, and seeing what happens. How is it on Mac? On Mac, they have an Electron, or no, excuse me. They have basically, you have to use it in the web, but you can add it to the dock and it makes a web app out of Loop, and it looks great as a web app. So I don't even notice the difference, but I do kind of wish they had a way to use it offline or like in a actual application. So I would recommend trying it out if you have Office. If you don't, apparently you can use it with the family version or the home with making workspaces. I would not use it if you have the business basic, because you can just make pages or ideas. You do not get the workspace support. So
Mm-mm.
I would stay clear of it. That alone, just makes the business basic not as enticing, because Loop really does allow for, that it kind of fills that hole that Notion could fill if it was accessible. But again, the plus for this is Notion, you have to pay per workspace. This you do not. So those are things to keep in mind. Now, Notion does have an AI component and other things. I think you can get Copilot for Office, but that is substantially more expensive as well. So all of those things are worth thinking about whenever you
But I would
want
love to
to.
figure out to get an
Mhm.
AI solution, because like, that's what I'm missing.
Now, what if you can create workspaces like Taylor is saying on the home and family edition, then you could get that $20 a month Copilot, and that would probably work with your Microsoft Loop then as well. Okay, so I really would recommend looking at this. It's look at the features. We'll link to it in the show notes. It This can also be an automation tool, right? Because the more you can put down and be able to reference back to later, it'll be very useful. And it's surprising that Google or others do not have similar solutions. Would you use a solution from Google over Microsoft, or do you like Loop?
Well, considering that we have to use Microsoft for accessibility stuff, I
Hmm.
think that I'd rather just use Loop.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, I mean, look at what Google has done with like Sheets and Slides and other things. You have to like jump through hoops, if you even possible, to get accessibility to work on those platforms. So, yeah, I think that's really where the problem comes into place. There is, you don't get a lot of those features with Google Workspace. We're keeping Google Workspace for one reason, and one reason only, and that's shared drives. But other than that, I feel like Office does offer much more of an accessible solution, even though Office Online is a pain sometimes. All right, let's go ahead, and I want to talk about one other topic before we wrap up. And we've been able to hear a lot more about the Vision Pro. Taylor, are you kind of still on the fence about this thing, or if you had the money, would you go and buy it tomorrow?
No, I would not. It needs to have the seeing AI and other things in order for me to do that.
Yeah, we've learned that with the Vision Pro, apps will not have full camera support at launch, or when it launched. and that may come later on in a beta, but or in Vision OS 2, but it does not look like you have full access to the cameras. And in fact, in a WWDC video, they stated that if you're using Vision, like the Vision Kit controllers for scanning documents, it will use a nearby device to do so. That's a bummer. That is a complete bummer, because that thing, I bet, could do some great scanning.
Yeah, it's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I still want on this device, but it is kind of a bummer that we are not going to get several things that it should be able to do. There's so many cameras on that device, but I have a feeling some of that is regulatory, right? Some of that is, do they have, or have they gone through regulations, with governments to make sure that you can scan and things like that? There are things that we've heard about with the Vision Pro I don't want to discuss until I've actually gotten a chance to try them, because they sound amazing and I don't want to get people's hopes up until we actually know how it works. But I should be able to get my hands on a Vision Pro this week, so I'm pretty excited to try that out. I'm still super excited about all this stuff, so it'll be really cool to see where Loop and Vision Pro will go in the future. So these are going to be some topics that we follow pretty closely in the IA cast. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. I will have more to talk about on Vision Pro next week, and I'll probably report more on Loop. But with all that being said, I want to thank everybody who's been here in chat. And man, I might, for people that stay this long into the podcast, I might start asking our chat room to give us picks.
Right?
But Taylor, what is your pick for this week, and where can people find you online?
Well, I guess it's the new knitting machine that I just bought that I'm partially mad at. I bought this again. I was talking about my crafting business. Again, you guys are the first ones to hear about it, so that is pretty awesome. You guys should consider yourselves lucky. I've been keeping it under closed doors until I could actually get my inventory. And well, I bought this knitting machine on Friday, and it has been nothing but frustration ever since I bought it, because I was trying to learn how to use it, and then it was like very visual. So I'm going to be troubleshooting it after this IA cast gets over. You can find me online, Taylor Arndt at Techopolis.social on Mastodon. And that's mainly where I'm at. I'm also on YouTube and just all over.
Yep. What is your YouTube channel?
So that also has changed. So I'll just make this really brief. Due to Google thinking that I'm 12 and it kind of escalating, I have a whole video about that. It's on Arndt Tech. So ARNDT Tech. And you can go ahead and listen to that video and you can understand the entire story behind it. But I'm pretty excited about the new channel, and I definitely need to get back to posting because it's been a pretty busy month.
Yep. All right. So my pick this time is another TV show, because you know me, and that is season 2 of Halo. It's got some different reviews. People haven't liked it. They could do some things better in season 1. Season 2 has started off to be pretty good. And I'm going to watch it all the way through, because, it's science fiction, and y'all know me. I will watch it even if it's not good. So I've been enjoying it. I've seen the first 2 episodes. So some of the special effects and some of the fight scenes at the beginning were really cool. I really enjoyed that. So I'm here for it. I'm here for the whole season. So Halo, check it out. Paramount Plus. Might be able to buy the seasons on iTunes. I'm not sure, but it is audio described. It's not bad. And yeah, Halo and Paramount Plus. So where can you find me online? I'm Mike Doise on most places. Mike Doise at techopolis.social. And you can email me at mikedoise at icloud.com. You can find me as Michael Doise on Facebook and all the places. And I'm on Discord as Mike Doise. We really are doing some work on a lot of our platforms. And hey, about that, we have a new community on WhatsApp for the iAccessibility community, where you could come and join several different groups instead of just one massive sprawling group of however many people, and you could join and talk about whatever you'd like. We'd love to hear suggestions and how we can improve that. So please let me know. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that. But people are seeming to love it. We got people posting in our book club, movies and TV, games, all kinds of rooms. So it's fantastic. And it's actually also been announced for, if you're a Bits member, they have a WhatsApp community. So join Bits and you can join a group of folks there. It's the Blind Information Technology Specialists. And very similar thing. They have a Discord. We have a Discord. So there's two great places where you can go to come talk to people. So it's fantastic stuff. All right. Thanks, Taylor, for being here again. Thank you, everybody in chat. Y'all are great. It's been a fantastic podcast. Yes, but Discord is better. That is from Ashley on the chat. So, we have an active chat room. It's fantastic. So, I want to thank y'all all for being here. It's been a great episode, and we'll be back for more soon. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the IA Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show and found the conversation to be insightful and informative. If you have any feedback or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email at feedback@iacast.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at IACast Network to stay informed about new episodes and other updates. Don't forget to check out more great podcasts on the IACast Network, iacast.net. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.